So today we're going to talk about money. Okay, the definition of money is it's an asset that can be used to purchase goods or services. So yesterday we talked about financial assets, and now we're going to talk about a specific type of asset, which is money. Now, money is different from wealth. For example, wealth could be, like Bill Gates is very, very wealthy. He owns lots of businesses. He owns lots of stock in his corporation in Microsoft, and he does have a lot of money, but not all of his wealth is money. Okay, for example, his stocks, he couldn't just take his stocks and go to Walmart to purchase groceries. Okay, or he couldn't take a portion of his business and purchase a car with that. So money has to be able to be used to purchase goods or services. Now you could take assets and convert them into money, but that would actually be a process in and of itself. So first we're going to talk about the functions of money. These are the things what does money have to be able to do in order to be considered money? And the first one is it has to be able to be a medium of exchange. So people have to be willing to accept that money in exchange for goods and services. It's something that you give someone, and in return, then they'll give you some product that you want. The second function of money is it has to be a store of value. It has to be something that your money can allow you to save for future consumption. So something that degrades very easily, that maybe after a few years it kind of disintegrates. That wouldn't be a very good store of value, and so we couldn't use it as money. And the third function of money is it needs to be able to be a unit of account, which means that you can compare the values of goods and services using prices. So this kind of harkens back to when people use the barter system. This is why money is a lot better than using a barter system because, for example, let's say you were selling some item and someone offered you 2 chickens and someone else offered you a sack of potatoes. Well, how do you know which is the better deal? With money, it's very easy because you're just using a numeric system. And so if someone offers you $6 versus $7, you know which one you're getting, you know which one is the better deal. So money has to be able to be a unit of account. It has to be able to be a store of value and a medium of exchange. And so we're going to look at what are some of called the properties of money, which if something fits all these properties, then it would be a good use of as money. And the first one is durability, meaning that it's going to last after years and years and years of use. And that kind of harkens back to when we talked about it has to be a store of value, meaning it's not going to disintegrate. This is why our money isn't actually made out of paper, because if it's made out of paper, if you washed it in the washing machine, it would just completely crumble. Our money is actually kind of made of a cloth like material. It also has to be portable. It has to be money should be able to be taken anywhere easily. So, we wouldn't want something really, really heavy and bulky being used as money, because that's not something that you could easily take with you to the grocery store and pay with. You don't want heavy money that you have to tote around. The third thing is you want your money to be divisible. It has to be able to be easily divided into smaller denominations. If our money only had maybe we only had 2 different types of money, we had a $5 bill and a $1 bill, and it couldn't be divisible after that, then that would be really, really difficult, because if you bought something that cost less than that $1 bill, there would be no way to make change. And that's really the main reason why you want it divisible, is because you want to be able to make change. You want to be able to add it up in lots of different types of quantities to easily purchase things. We also want uniform money. So we want money that's going to be relatively the same within a country. Now we do have, we have a $1 bill and a $5 bill, and sometimes, the government has several different types of quarters or several different types of $20 bills. But for the most part, we know what each of those bills is supposed to look like. If someone gave us an orange bill, we would know that that wasn't United States currency. So, in a country, you don't want there to be 20 different types of $1 bills. We wouldn't want one that was blue and one that was red, one that was orange, and one that was circular shaped, and one that maybe was a triangle. Because if you have all these different types of bills, it's going to be really hard to remember which are real and which are counterfeit. So we want money to be relatively uniform within a country, that you easily recognize what is real money and what would be fake or counterfeit money. Okay, and the last thing we want money to have is a limited supply. You don't want for the amount of money you have in your country to be infinite, because if that was the case, every single piece of money that you had would be worthless, because you could just have, everyone could have as much money as they wanted to. So kind of, for example, think about in Germany in the 1920s when they had hyperinflation, because they had so much money, each dollar bill or each, Reichmark that they had became worth less and less and less and less and less. And so in the United States, that's the Federal Reserve's job, is they're the ones who are supposed to limit our supply. They make sure that there's not too much money in our economy. And a lot of other first world nations have a central bank that does a similar job, where that central bank is in charge of regulating the money supply. Before we had the Federal Reserve, when our money was backed by gold, then basically the gold acted as a limiter, that you could only have as much money as there was gold, and because there's not infinite amounts of gold, it limited the supply of money as well. And that's why people used to use what's called commodity money and representative money, which we're about to talk about. So there's different types of money. In the very kind of go back to the beginning of time, people didn't have dollar bills that they would pay with. They used commodity money. And commodity money is items that in and of themselves, intrinsically, they have value. So they can be used as money, but they also have value apart from being used as money. So for example, gold is used as money. It's commodity money, but it's also something that you can melt down. It's decorative. You can make jewelry out of. Tobacco, salt, all those have been used as money in previous times. Even today, in certain different types of populations, they still use commodity money. So for example, in prisons, in 2016 in prisons, right now they're actually using ramen as money. They used to use cigarettes as money, and they may still do so. But psychologists have started studying different prisons and seeing that ramen noodles are being used as money. And the reason for that is because prisoners have such a poor diet, and they're saying that they're not being fed enough, that they use packages of ramen, which they can buy in in the prison store. They use that as money, and they'll trade that for fresh fruit, for vegetables, for all sorts of things. Just those packets of ramen. They actually talk about it. They refer to it as soup. How much soup do you have? But after, we progressed from commodity money, and then people started using representative money. It's also known as commodity-backed money. And so this is money that, in and of itself, you might use, paper money to buy goods and services, but that paper money would be backed by something of value. So for example, throughout the 1700s, 1800s, and even the 1900s in America, even though people might have been using, greenbacks or dollar bills, theoretically, you could go to a bank and exchange those certificates for gold. Okay, our money was backed by gold. So the money itself, might not have value, but it's backed by something. You can exchange it for something that does have gold. So gold, silver, some type of commodity itself. But then today in the United States, we use fiat money. Okay, and fiat money is money that it's not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver, it's not backed by any commodity. It's only valuable because your central government says it has value. So basically, because of the United States, because the Federal Reserve regulates our supply of money and says this is valuable, this can be used to pay off, U.S. debts, that's what gives that money value. So make sure you know the difference between, commodity money is in and of itself, intrinsically it has value. Commodity-backed money or representative money, you might be using paper money, but it's backed by something of value. But fiat money, you can't exchange it for gold, you can't exchange it for silver. It's only valuable because the government says it's valuable. So you can kind of see the progression of money. You start out with commodity money, and then when that becomes too cumbersome, you don't want to tote around tons of tobacco or salt or ramen noodles. Then you progress to representative money. But most nations today use fiat money. At least most first world nations use fiat money. And the last thing we're going to talk about are measures of the money supply. So basically, economists and the government, they use certain measures to figure out how much money is in our economy. And the first one we call very creatively M1. Okay, M1 is composed of 3 different things. It's made up of currency, which is literally like hard, cold cash and coins. That's currency. Traveler's checks, which those are, checks that you can go to, you exchange your money for the traveler's checks, and you can have a record of them if you lose them while you're traveling. And then checking accounts. Okay, now it's not savings accounts, it's only checking accounts. So remember, checking accounts, that's where you could literally like swipe your debit card to pay from your checking account, or you could write a check. It's a checkable bank deposit. Okay, so imagine M1 is, think of it as something that you can use to buy something at the store. Okay, so for example, if you went to the store, you could pay for groceries with currency, you could pay for groceries with traveler's checks, or you could swipe your debit card, or you could write a check and you could buy groceries. But you can't buy groceries from your savings account. So savings are not part of M1. It's only things that you could actually use to buy something immediately, right then and there. And so I have a question down here. It says, why do you think credit cards are not considered part of M1? And the reason for that is because credit cards are more of a, they're not actually money, they're more of a loan. You could have a $10,000 credit limit and you could spend $10,000, but that doesn't actually mean that you have $10,000. You might have no money in your checking account, no money in your savings account, but you could still spend $10,000 because basically your credit card company is giving you a loan that you're promising to pay off, at a later date. So M1, currency, traveler's checks, checking accounts, it's what you can use to buy something right then and there. The second measure of the money supply is called M2. And M2 is made up of everything that's in M1, so those three things we just listed, currency, traveler's checks, and checking accounts, plus savings accounts, CDs, and money market funds. Now, hopefully everyone knows what a savings account is. Your savings account, you could have at Wells Fargo. It's basically just an account that earns interest, unlike a checking account, or earns a little bit more interest than some checking accounts, which do earn a tiny bit of interest. So savings account, it's an account that you put your money in, and it earns interest at a bank. A CD is also similar to a savings account. It's basically you're giving your money to the bank. Their promise, you have a set date. You'll give your money to the bank for maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 5 years. And at the end of that time period, then they return you your money plus a little bit more interest than you would have earned with a savings account. Kind of the trick with the CD, though, the reason it's sometimes not as preferable as a savings account is if you try to withdraw your money before that time period is up, you might have to pay a penalty. So that's kind of the difference between a savings account and a CD. Savings account is completely liquid. You can get your money out whenever you want it. CD, you can still get your money out whenever you want it, but you might have to pay a penalty. And then a money market fund is kind of like a mutual fund where you're putting your money into this fund that's buying all these other funds. The difference is that, though, the fund is buying all liquid assets, so you can still withdraw money from a money market fund whenever you want as well. Okay, so savings accounts, CDs, money market funds, those are a little bit less liquid than M1 because you would have to withdraw money from those accounts in order to buy groceries. But make sure you remember the definition of M2 as well. It's everything that's in M1 plus those accounts that are very highly liquid, savings accounts, CDs, money market funds. Okay, it's everywhere that you have money or where you have money deposited that you could just withdraw it easily. All right, so that's all I have for you today. Next week we'll be starting to talk about the T accounts and how banks balance their accounts. But just make sure you understand, money, the functions of money, properties of money, types of money, and then how to measure the money supply. So I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.